seriously shouldn't have stayed up. I should have just focused on finishing the script and not going through Tumblr and Dailymotion. As you may know, yes, I was watching We Bare Bears. Well, I was watching Italia at first until I switched to We Bare Bears. I basically had a marathon of episodes, all night long. During that time, I laughed at the bears' antics and their adventures. I thought it was actually nice I was doing this because I hadn't exposed myself to American cartoons for over 2 years now, choosing to watch anime whenever I opened up the laptop, so yeah. By the time I had finished Primal, I looked at the clock that hung in the small kitchen of my house. It was already 11:30 p.m. I haven't done anything for the past few hours, no improvements so far in my script, and it was due tomorrow. Great. Fucking great. If I keep that up, I'll probably fail my weakest class. Curse my short attention span. This is why I take Ritalin now. Anyway, let's not focus on my ADHD problems. The main reason why I'm writing, or in this case typing this, is because I want to share this story with all the other fans, okay? Good. Just as I was about to close my browser, I noticed some sort of episode that I probably haven't watched yet. It read, We Bare Bears Episode 8B. That was it. No title of the so-called 8B or some sort. I can just assure that it's one or more or less a part 2 of Primal. I was excited. I thought it couldn't hurt to watch one more episode, right? I was wrong. As I'm typing this, I think I finally figured out why my friend was so scared. You see, some time ago while I went down to the 7th graders' hallway to see my younger friends, I noticed one of my friends staring as if she had been looking into oblivion. Curious, I asked if she was okay, and then I noticed something. Tears. There were tears on her face. She didn't scream. She didn't speak. She didn't do anything. She was just so silent. It wasn't like her. I then decided to push her for more questions, so I just walked to the next classroom so I could leave a note on my other friend about this issue. But before I did leave, she muttered something. I couldn't really make out the words, but I think she might have said, bears, forest, danger. And there was one more word, which I really couldn't make out. Now that I've seen it, I understand how she left, and she's probably taking it a lot worse than I did. I think I'll comfort her when I get back to school, but then again, I'll probably tell her when she's ready. When will she be ready, though? I'm not really so sure. Anywho, I decided to watch the final episode before I went to bed. Honestly, I was excited. What could it be? Now, there was something that was kind of weird with this episode. There was no theme song that played out. I mean, the bears walking around all things was there, but there was no sound. I thought I'd swear that I turned up the volume on this. Why wouldn't it even been... But I just shrugged it off as something with the editing, maybe. Right after the theme song with no sound finished, the title card appeared. So apparently there was no title whatsoever. There was literally 8B. The first scene came up. It was the forest. And there laid Panda and Ice Bear, who were really hungry and so tired, and their fun was somehow messed up. My guess about it was being Primal Part 2 was correct. Grizz not being there was the most obvious clue out of all of them. And then, I don't know why, but it just was like that for 5 minutes. Same scene, same bears, same everything, and no spoken dialogue whatsoever. Hell, they didn't even move. I tried checking if my laptop was hung, but the thing is that it wasn't. My mouse was working perfectly, the video itself didn't freeze, and everything else was good. I thought, why in the world would Daniel make something like this? I mean, this isn't like him whenever he makes episodes. I probably just thought that there really was something wrong with the editing, so I decided to go for another try the next day. But before I could close the window, I heard a sound. Well, it wasn't really the sound of really anything coming in or whatever, but it came from the episode itself. I uttered, finally, something happening for once. But if I were to choose between having that whole episode frozen and having something happen, honestly, I would have picked the former. The same fear I felt the whole time was probably the same level when I read Cairo's stories or played Lusanturbo, and I have a panic attack when the characters I was playing get killed for some reason. No, maybe it was greater than that. Whatever it was the most horrifying thing I've ever seen with my own two eyes. The sound, you asked? Was actually a footstep. So this was a what if Ice and Panda just fucking stayed until Grizz returned thing. I honestly didn't know what to think. But weren't they gonna show how they lived their lives in their forest? Well, I was excited. If anything, bring it on, episode. The thing is, though, it wasn't Grizz. That's when I realized it was Panda. I was like, okay, since when the fuck did he actually get up and walk? I've been literally staring at the screen for 5 minutes, and I didn't recall him disappearing. I was slowly beginning to feel fear creep up in my veins. Then I heard Ice Bear cough. His head went to where Panda lied down some time ago, and was surprised to find out that he was gone. He blinked twice before using his right paw to clean off any dust that blocked his vision. Panda just disappeared. Now, I believe that the crew wasn't idiotic enough to make that kind of error. Sure, they go doing some errors in the episodes, but they were minor. In this case, it was a big error. 5 minutes of watching them lie down and Panda just, poof, vanished all of a sudden. This then made me curious. What was happening? What was this episode? I mean, was this even real? As for me, I believe it is. There were no glitches, and it was as if it was an official episode. I thought to myself, maybe they're good at drawing and the voices are just a fail. I mean, some people can imitate the official artist work relatively easily. What made me surprised was that their voices were also real. Ice Bear's voice was literally legit. I didn't hear a kind of sound it made, that it was edited, but it was natural and everything. Ice Bear, he coughed again, blinking. More footsteps were heard. Was a serial killer going in again? It was going to be another 23.5 or something? I don't know. I sure hope it wasn't, because I am done seeing a bunch of insanity going around. I mean, what the hell was going on with this? Honestly, whatever it was making me feel anxious. My heart was pounding really fast and I felt blood rush through my system. Normally I would fidget whenever I sit, but when I was watching this episode, I was fidgeting in an extreme way. It meant that I was curious yet terrified of what may have happened next. I mean, what was going on? The figure then came out. It was just Panda, who had what I assumed at the time was a jar. Why did he disappear just to go get a jar? Jar, Ice Bear uttered. It seemed that I was correct. Panda made a shh sound and said, "Trust me, brother." Okay, so what the fuck are you even gonna do with that jar, Panda? Is he gonna catch fish with the jar? Is he going to tear up Ice Bear's organs and put them in there? I mean, come on. Reading about how all that entire thing happened or whatever with this one story I read, I mean, was messed up enough. I mean, I just didn't want to. But it seemed like none of that was happening. Instead, he just put the jar on the ground and then went back to lying down. And that same scene from the beginning came back up, except that the moon rose. Sometime later, Grizz came back with the food. There was no Panda or Ice Bear turning primal and fighting over Froyo. It was just that. Once Grizz sat down the food, he ordered Panda to start a fire. Afterwards, they ate. So this was really going to show a survival episode extended? I thought, great. I was so excited to see what would happen. Once the bears were done with their meal, they went to bed. Now, I thought that this was going to show the next day, but something told me that that wasn't the case. And needless to say, it was right. It was something else. The next scene showed Panda waking up. Again, he didn't turn primal because all three of them had eaten. He just woke up sometime later to see the stars, but looking at his expression, it was as if something was bothering him. Like something was wrong and he didn't know what. He looked around and Ice Bear wasn't there. Now there's panic Panda and I. Where in the world could have Ice Bear gone? Was he planning to murder or some sort? Did he catch a ditch his brothers to go back to the cave because he missed his fridge? Or I don't know. The latter kind of seemed funny, but the former was weird. I knew that Ice Bear wouldn't murder his brothers. I mean, he loved them for God's sake. So I thought that maybe this was the most ridiculous idea I ever thought of. Again, I just let the episode play. Panda stood up, and the jar was with them. Picking it up, he left it while looking at Grizz, who was fast asleep. He had to find Ice Bear. So the next 3 minutes were about him searching for Ice Bear, and Panda got tripped many times. Nearly killed by a snake, stumbled upon Alpha's group, and managed to escape from them 6 times. He even got himself caught in cobwebs, but luckily he managed to get rid of them before the spiders could get him. At last, he found his destination. Panda's eyes widened. There laid a pile of dirt covering a body. On top of it was an infernal flower, and a rock on the side with no name on it. Panda gulped. He had a bad feeling about this. Slowly, he started walking to the dirt and dug to find the body. My suspicions were correct. It was Ice Bear. His eyes were half open, yet they were soulless. His mouth was open, letting blood flow from there. All I could see on his chest was red. Nothing but pure red. But that didn't really shock me. What shocked me was something else. His neck was covered using an extra layer of dirt. Panda frowned and removed the dirt from it. Afterwards, he screamed. On Ice Bear's neck, there were holes that had so much blood leaking out of it. Worst part, there were maggots and worms that came out of it. I didn't even want to watch the part where Panda had to decapitate him just to see what was inside. But what I did see were organs, and all of them had worms on it, most of it being from the intestines. Tears leaked out from Panda's eyes. Honestly, who wouldn't cry at this point? You woke up to search for your brother only to find his corpse and not himself? How would you feel upon seeing a corpse instead of the person you value the most? I myself didn't cry because I really cried, but I felt more numb than anything. The thought of me being in that situation was gruesome, terrifying, and depressing. It went on for 2 minutes. Now the weird part came in. See, each episode lasted for 11 minutes, but this time it extended 11. This time it said it would last for about 11 minutes and 10 seconds, but it felt like as if it was beyond that. I moved my mouse to find out that it did extend itself by 4 minutes. So maybe Panda wasn't looking for Ice Bear for the 3 minutes after all. I was extremely confused. I mean, what the hell was happening? First there was no theme song, then the picture frozen on itself for 5 minutes, and now this? This wasn't even an AU or sequel of Primal at all. It was just something else. Like it was another world of We Bare Bears. And for one, I knew for sure that Daniel Chong never made this. But it was confusing. Everything, even his aura, felt like as if he did make it. So why the hell did it end up like this? The instrumental of Osaka-san for Miku then came up. Now that honestly just added up the creepy scenario. Was Panda's long-lost mother going to choke him? Whatever it was, I was not ready for what I was about to see. And yet, I had to watch further. Slash. Panda's head got nearly decapitated. And by who? It was none other than Grizz in his primal form. What the fuck, Grizz? Didn't you eat? Panda stood up, his head on the verge of falling. Blood started coming out, and so did the maggots and worms. So it was the food that killed him, I thought. Mental note, never eat camping food again. Grizz? Panda uttered. Grizz had red eyes. Holding the axe, he swung it and aimed it at Panda. Panda ran around in circles, holding the jar. An idea then came to his mind. With his right hand, he threw the jar at Grizz and caused the glass pieces to stick to Grizz. Blood trailed down his head right down to the ground, because one of them had blocked his eye. His grip on the axe was gone, and Panda took it and repeatedly chopped Grizz's head. The brown bear then fell to the grass, with blood leaking from his own brain. Just seeing his own brain leaking made me disgusted. What had gotten into the producers' heads? Why? Panda looked at him, his primal form slowly appearing. Why must you? The Asian bear clenched its paw. Why? Are you serious? Are you really trying to murder me and my brother? Grizz's response was so soft to the point I could barely hear it, even with my earphones. But after Grizz answered, worms and maggots started to appear from his neck. Then Grizz died. Panda's head literally fell off. While his head fell to the ground and his eyes were wide open, his body ran around as more maggots and worms came out from his body. Upon bumping into a tree, it fell, and boom, end of story. There is no outro or anything. The ending just showed 3.5 bears, dead with blood and insects all around them. I couldn't believe what I had just saw. I thought maybe I was watching something I don't even know anymore. There was no way that I saw was real, right? But it's just too vivid to pass it off as fake. I refreshed the webpage that had the episode and it said, "Webpage not available." I checked my server and found out that it was perfectly fine. Again, I looked at the webpage and nothing. I pressed the back button and found myself on the Primal episode webpage, but something was different. If there were 16 suggested episode minutes ago, there were only 15. 8B was gone. I searched for episode 8B on Google and found nothing about it. I even tried to ask some We Bear Bear fans on Tumblr, but all they said was that no such episode aired. I tried to post the last screenshot I took, the part where Panda split Grizz's brain in two, but when I posted it, there was nothing. I was so fucking sure that I pressed print screen system RQ so many times, but in the end there wasn't anything that came out. And up until now, the mystery of episode 8B will probably never be revealed. Ever. Which, if anything, is probably a good thing that it happened. And that, my little shadows, was We Bear Bears, episode 8B. Or, in this case, Primal 2. A We Bear Bears lost episode creepypasta. My final thoughts on the story? I liked it. I actually thought this was about as screwed up, dark, creepy as all heck kind of story. And it's a lost episode 1 too, which is very rare to find. I mean, I know I found one yesterday, but still, I mean, but there's a lot to this story that I really, really, really enjoyed. In fact, it kind of reminded me of Hetalia episode 23.5, which, is also another amazing story. But this one, I think, actually manages to take the cake with this one. Because I think the best thing about this story is the fact that they incorporated gore into the actual episode itself without being completely overbearing, and it actually worked extremely well with the episode. I mean, and the maggots, the organs, all that stuff, like just going out everywhere was disgustingly gross and terrifying at the same time, especially for like a lighthearted show like We Bear Bears. Now, if you've ever watched We Bear Bears, which I'm quite sure many of us have, including myself, and there's an episode called Primal. Primal is specifically where all three of the bears go and they, want to start living in nature again. They want to, be their own natural kind of group. Now, of course, during the episode, because of the fact that they don't really have any food, they start losing their sanity. And of course, Ice Bear and, Ice Bear and Panda, or Pan if you want to call them that, they start going crazy. They start becoming, primal. They revert back to their original, selves to an extent. Like, the original nature. And they're like attacking each other, they're trying to fight over food, and I think Grizz is the only one that actually didn't get affected by this. At least as far as I know. I don't think I watched too much of the episode to really know for a fact, but I do know one thing, is that Primal was one of the darkest We Bear Bear episodes out there, and this episode itself that was mentioned here in this creepypasta was a perfect rendition and sequel to the actual story itself. Well, more along the lines alternate episode, if you really want to call it that. But still, it was really freaky, really terrifying, really weird, and very realistic too. At least in a lot of different ways. I mean, but with that being said, there were a few negatives that I did have about the story. For one, the references. There were a lot of references to older creepypastas and references to like music and videos and things like that. I get it that the author is trying to, have like a little bit more of a visual too there, and that's understandable, but it didn't really play out too well with the story. I mean, like there's actually been, times and things like that, where they say, how do I put it? I don't know. I think that they had a mention of like Italia 23.5, that episode. Yes, that actually happened. I skipped over that for a reason. And I think a couple other mentions of other creepypastas, which, like I said, does not work well. It's literally become a cliche in and of its own self to sit there and mention other lost episode creepypastas within your creepypasta, even if it's pointing out that it's not like those kind of things. I mean, it's really difficult nowadays to pull it off properly, and this story was no exception to that. I mean, it did not do it very well. And all the times that it was mentioned, I think it was paid in homage, so to speak, to the episode, which is understandable, but there are other ways you can do that without sitting there and including it in the creepypasta itself, because it kind of ruins a story. Now, what else did I not like about the episode? Well, to be completely honest, other than that one thing, there really isn't a whole lot else that I didn't like about it. I mean, I guess I would have probably liked a bit of a better explanation as to where this all came from. But then again, the episode itself is unfortunately, nowhere to be found. It's gone. Even the author herself even said that that was the case. But despite all of these things, though, it was still a relatively good story. But like I always say, this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you disagree with it, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions on these creepypastas, and I would definitely love to know what you guys think about this. My final rating of the story is an 8 out of 10. I found the story to be really original, really good, awesome, creepy, and just downright terrifying at times. However, the constant mentionings and fourth wall breaks, if you want to call it that, and other things like such, was really off-putting and kind of, downplayed the story. And it got rid of some of the realism as well within the story itself to, so that people could, kind of know that it's just a story that they're reading. Which is unfortunate. If those things were to be eliminated and everything, then the story would have gotten an automatic 10 out of 10. But you know what? Even then, though, an 8 out of 10 is still really, really high up. And I do recommend the story for anybody out there who wants to read it. I'll make sure to leave a link down in the comment section or in the description box of the story itself for any of you guys who are interested in checking it out. But yeah, what did you guys think about this story? Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys not? Also, what would you have done to help make the story a lot better? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Also, leave me your own personal review on this story, as every review that you guys make, helps me, do better. If you're brand new to this channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I make brand new videos every single day, at least 3 at the very least. So yeah, if you're brand new here and you want to see more videos and things like that, make sure to subscribe. Anyway, I'm the Shadow Reader. Thanks again for watching today's episode, you guys, and I will be seeing you all in the next episode. And like always, roll the outro because I'm out. In fear and surprise, as your eyes widen, your mouth goes dry with each battered breath. You try to scream, your mind begs to leave, glued to your computer screen. The killers they slash, the tapes burn and crash. The cartridge you bought will be your final haunt. The rituals of hate will seal your fate. The tears you shed will be from the fear-gripping horror-driven nightmarish gore-filled, terrorizing, hateful, burning, violent, rage-inducing, knife-slashing, blood-splattering, silent screams. Only time will tell if you will escape this online hell. Your horror-filled obsessions will come with its own regressions. Your pathetic screams will not be heeded in any way, because your nightmares will come at any day.